Do you like me?
Just like me.
Like MeTV Fresno on Facebook. Get the latest news, interact with others, watch videos, become a fan of me. Exclusively brought to you by Ventura TV.
Hello, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Thursday morning. You know, this might be one of the shows that you might want to set your DVR, because if you're a parent, there is a big, gigantic red alert about prescription drugs. That's our focus on the show today. Prescription drugs, 436, MeTV option 11. Remember, if you call in, turn down the sound. Back in a moment with our program. Hey, no laughing matter on this show today. It's a very serious topic, and if you're a parent, you might want to wake up, take notice, set your DVR, because a very important program regarding prescription drugs and your kids. There is an epidemic in this country, a major epidemic, and I'm telling you, if you've got teenage kids in the house or maybe nephews, you've got to really pay attention today, because this is an out-of-control situation. Let's go to the videotape and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now, believe it or not, more young people die these days from the use of prescription drugs than car accidents. We'll tell you how that's possible. In fact, OxyContin, Vicodin, and Xanax kill more people than heroin and cocaine combined. Now, it all starts when kids get a hold of their parents' leftover prescription drugs, drugs they've used for pain, after surgery, or otherwise. Parents should beware and not just assume that their kids are not taking any drugs. They should have their kids tested for drugs, because their addiction can be hidden for up to a year. What kids are doing to take some of these pills, and they're crushing them, maybe inhaling some of them, or even injecting some of those pills into their system, much like you would do heroin. And it's happening in some of the finest neighborhoods in Fresno and in Clovis. Many of these teens suffering from anxiety, feeling too much pressure to perform in school, and maybe other pressures as well. Live in our studio today to talk about all this is Flindt Andersen. He is the founder and executive director of the Pain Prescription Abusers in Need program. He'll explain how the program works and how he started this program. He's the executive director. If you've got kids in the house, you might want to pay attention, especially if you have teens. You know, believe it or not, Flindt was telling me yesterday that a lot of this stuff begins in elementary school, 5th and 6th grade, believe it or not. 436 MeTV option 11. Call in if you have a question. Remember, if you do, turn down the sound. We're back with our topic today, prescription drugs, in just a moment.
Now, why don't you tell us the whole story right from the beginning? All right. From the beginning. This is the city, Los Angeles, California. My name's Friday. I carry a badge. Police officers.
You any idea who the other man was?
My partner's Bill Gannon.
Program?
We got just one big question.
Yeah.
When?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Back here with our program, a very serious topic today, prescription drugs, the use or the abuse of them. Flindt Andersen is our guest. Hi, Flindt.
Hi, John.
Did I say everything correctly in the monologue?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much everything.
Pretty much hit the nail on the head?
You did.
So, how do we know that this problem, abusing drugs, prescription drugs, how does that kill more people than, say, car accidents? Where did that figure come from?
That actually came from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. You know, now, and I just want to say a little something about that. It is now prescription drug overdoses have caused more deaths than motor vehicles in the U.S.
Right.
So that is a pretty alarming statistic. You know, I believe the number now is 2.2 million Americans aged 12 and older are using prescription drugs non-medically.
Okay. And also, I said in the monologue, it kills more people, these overdoses, than heroin and cocaine combined. Right. Again, that's that coming from?
Again, from the National Institute on Drug Abuse.
Okay, okay. And how long was the study done? A couple of years? Or?
Actually, that study was done probably in 07, 08, somewhere along there. You know, statistics on drug abuse and those kinds of things aren't actually, really current up to today. It's usually a couple. They're as current as they can be at this point.
Yeah. So why is this a problem? Why are these teenagers as young as 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade taking overdoses on some of these prescription drugs? Why?
Well, I think one of the reasons is these kids are, again, for the lack of a better term, they're under some pressure, from parents. Parents, we call them the helicopter parents. They hover over their kids. They want to make sure they're doing everything from, starting on the baseball team to making sure they're getting that 4.0. And
so wait a minute, it's as simple as that?
It can be. Absolutely, it can be. Because one of the
just by being a helicopter parent, it puts too much pressure, and so now they're turning to drugs?
It absolutely. Because what happens is a lot of these kids will walk through the halls at any local Fresno school, and some kid will have the Vicodin or the Norco that they get out of the parent's medicine cabinet, and they will simply look at their friend and go, here, man, take one of these, okay, and you're going to feel a lot better.
To take the pressure off.
Take the pressure off. All of a sudden, everything goes away.
If that's the case, Flindt, then what is your message today to parents?
I take a very hard stand on talking with parents. And again, I think, a lot of parents today want to be their kid's best friend, and it's time not to be their best friend anymore. It's time to be the parent.
So how do you know where to draw that line? Okay, sometimes I feel like I'm a helicopter parent a little bit. Sometimes I'm monitoring my kids too much and not giving them enough freedom to make their own mistakes. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a I think we all make that mistake. So where's the line? When do you know? How do you know when to back off and just say, okay, you do your own thing?
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that we as parents don't need to be on top of our kids and and make sure that they're accomplishing things in school and doing those things.
Right, you can go too far the other way.
You can just go too far the other way. And so again, look, most kids are going to experiment with stuff. All right, they truly are. So as a parent today, because of social media, because of those things, you need to know what's happening on their Twitter accounts.
How do you find a happy medium? That's the question.
From
being a helicopter parent to backing off too much.
I don't know, John, to be honest with you. Okay, yeah. It's every family is different, every parent is different, every kid's different.
Yeah, I guess so. Take a call here. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. Your question.
Yeah, my question is that do you think that the medical association is partly responsible for all the prescription drugs that these kids are abusing?
Absolutely, I do. That goes without saying. We've got doctors right here in our own town. We have 8 or 10 of them that are actually on our list that they overprescribe so much.
Stay away from them.
And you got to stay away from some of these guys. Again, doctors for the most part, they don't want to see their patients in pain, and I'm not putting a lot of blame there.
You can't go to the doctor. See, I went to the doctor recently because I had a little foot problem. He wanted to give me a pill, and I said no.
Right.
I'm not taking another pill.
Right.
For a foot problem.
Or a sprained ankle. It's going to go away.
I sit down,
elevate it. It's going to go away in a couple of days. Right. But we've had doctors actually prescribe, 30, 40, 50 Vicodin pills for a sprained ankle.
That's crazy.
Right.
Hey, I want to put some graphics up on the screen here, and I want to talk about opiates, and we can talk about what they are. There you can see it. Opiates are a group of drugs that are used for treating pain. They are derived from opium, which comes from the poppy plant. The term opiates is sometimes used for close relatives of opium, such as codeine, morphine, heroin, and OxyContin. Now, opiates are dangerous. In fact, a high dose can cause death, anywhere from cardiac arrest to other problems as well. Opiates withdrawal symptoms. Here they are: low energy, runny nose, teary eyes, hot and cold sweats, goosebumps, yawning, believe it or not, muscle aches and pains, abdominal cramping, nausea, vomiting, and of course, diarrhea. So the opiates, now to best describe this, will you describe it? How would you describe an opiate?
An opiate, is exactly it's the pill that affects the central nervous system, goes to the pleasure receptors in the brain, and it tells the brain to tell you that you're not hurting anymore.
So the opiates are part of the ingredient of the prescription drug?
Yes.
And that ingredient comes from opium?
Comes directly from the opium plant, from the poppy plant.
The poppy plant.
Right. Right.
So that's how these kids are getting high.
Right. And again, I think I mentioned this to you yesterday. One of the comments that most kids make after they've taken it for the first time is that I never want to not feel like this again, because it is an unbelievable feeling. You know, again, John, I had the addiction for, 20 plus years.
I was just going to say, you were addicted
Right.
for 23 years.
Right.
So you're a recovering drug addict.
Right.
Okay. That's how you start. How did you start this program?
I just wanted to give back. I just wanted to, because I was fortunate enough to get through this. And by the way, I want to say that this addiction never goes away. I am going to be constantly in recovery for the rest of my life. And so when I started this, I really wanted to start spreading the message about this, because I was one of those doctor shoppers. I went to 12, 13 different doctor's offices at one time, and I wanted
Trying to get drugs?
Trying to get drugs. Because when you're taking X amount, and believe it or not, people sometimes ask me if this is really the truth, but at the end of my using, I was taking about 70 pills a day. And that was the increase, of course, over the years. And again, when you're taking that many, and I know people that have taken much more, but when you're taking that many, you have to get them from somewhere. They don't fall out of the sky. So you doctor shopped, or you bought them from friends. You did all of those things.
How did you stay alive taking that many pills?
When I walked into my last treatment center in 2001, I actually weighed about 150 pounds. I was losing the teeth in my mouth. Couldn't sign my name to the admission forms. I was probably 6 months away from dying. And
who saved you?
A friend of mine named Rich Wathen, who happens to be my best friend, and picked me up.
Wathen Castanos?
That's him.
Okay.
That's him. And
Okay.
he
The
picked me
builder,
up.
right?
Right. He picked me up, flew me down to the Betty Ford Center, and walked me through the front doors, and made it very clear that he would never speak to me again if I didn't complete this program. And so I completed it, and I've been on the right path since 2001.
Yeah, we got to take a break here, I believe, here on Connect With Me on MeTV Fresno, talking about the overdose of prescription drugs. We are talking to Flindt Andersen. He is the founder and director of the Director of Pain Prescription Abusers in Need right here in the city of Fresno. And you know what? We'll talk about what his program does to help people who are abusing, and I mean abusing, prescription drugs in a big way. And if their kids are doing it, he'll tell you how he and his program can help them. Back with our program 436 MeTV Option 11 in a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
We're back here. It's not a laughing matter. Somebody just cracked a joke here. Anyway, we're back here on Connect With Me on MeTV Fresno. Anyhow, we are talking about the overdose of prescription drugs, or abusing them. And Flindt, can you get these online relatively easy?
You can. You can get just about anything online these days. It's very easy. Yeah.
In this country, do you have to apply online to get it from, say, Europe or Canada, or where?
Most of the
Mexico?
online pharmacies are actually in Canada.
Okay.
But one of the problems, and it's interesting you bring up Mexico, because most of the major pharmaceutical companies, and Purdue Pharmaceutical in particular, who manufacture OxyContin, they are still selling to Mexico and to Canada. And so now the cartels have gotten involved. Drug dealers are obviously getting involved because there's a very high profit margin in these pills.
You mean the cartels in say, Mexico, South America?
Absolutely.
Central America?
You bet. And so now they're bringing them across our borders and selling them right on the streets.
Like hotcakes.
Like hotcakes, absolutely.
Like hotcakes, yeah. Unbelievable. I want to put another alarming stat on here, because we're talking about, middle school students, elementary school students. These, according to you, Flindt, are the top high schools where these abusers come from, these kids that are using these prescription drugs and overusing them. Buchanan tops the list, Clovis West, Clovis North, Bullard High School, San Joaquin Memorial, Clovis High, Fresno Christian. You folks at home, keep that up there for a minute. You folks at home that have kids, high school kids that are going to any one of these schools, beware. If you're not aware of what's going on, take a look at that list right there. Prescription drug abuse, a high number of students in these various schools are using or abusing these prescription
Yes.
drugs. How did you compile that list?
That list is based on the number of kids and families we see on a yearly basis, and 90% of our clientele is north of Herndon Avenue. So the kids that, and again, we go in and we speak to all these students on a yearly basis.
That's alarming, because you'd think it'd be in Southwest, Southeast, Fresno.
Right.
And you're saying north of Herndon.
It's north of Herndon, because, again, these are some families that come from means.
They got money.
They've got money. OxyContin normally is about $40 to $50 a pill on the street, and I'm sorry, but most kids can't afford that. So these are the students. 90, like I said, 90% of the parents we see are from these schools.
Yes. Addiction?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what does your program do? How do you help people?
First of all, we go and we spread the awareness. We speak at schools, high schools, universities, professional groups, spreading the message, telling them my story, and again, how my story was pretty brutal to begin with. And because we started doing that, then all of a sudden we had people knocking on our doors asking us, can you help us? So what we do is we get the families in first. So we refer to inpatient and outpatient facilities. I'm very picky on where I refer to. I think a lot of programs out there today are just want your money, and they're promising a cure, and people have to understand that there is no cure for this. It is manageable if you work a program and if you take your sobriety seriously, but there is no magic pill, pardon the pun, there is no magic anything, all right, and to cure this addiction. So we start out, again, depending on length of use, what they've been using. Do they require inpatient treatment to begin with? If so, we send them to a place in Southern California. Then we bring them back up here for aftercare with a psychiatrist, Dr. Brad Wajda, who is our psychiatrist. We have them in counseling because, John, most kids use drugs, even older people like myself, we use drugs for a reason. There is a reason why. Nobody wants to grow up and say, hey, I'm going to be a drug addict when I get older. So there's a reason, and I don't particularly care what the reason is, but you have to get to that with these kids. So again, treatment is simply treatment. You get them off the drugs first, then you get to the actual problem of why they're using in the first place, and that's what we do.
So you don't treat them at your center.
We do not.
You send them out. You outsource it.
We outsource it, absolutely.
But you oversee it.
We oversee it. You bet we do.
Okay, another call coming in. Good morning. Your question here on Connect with Me.
Oh my God, this is scary, especially for somebody that's got kids in middle school or elementary school. What does your guest think it's going to take to, push it to the forefront and make the public aware that we got epidemic problems here and we've got to address them? What's going to have to happen for people to have the awareness that this is a serious, life-threatening situation for our kids?
Actually, that is one of the best questions around, sir, because it is simply this. It is going to take parents, it is going to take our community, but parents in particular, to go into their schools and say, hey, we need an organization like PAIN coming in, not only talking to our students, but talking to our parents. You have to understand, most parents don't want, this is a sore subject with a lot of parents.
Why?
Because parents don't want to believe that their kids are even doing this to begin with. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, they are. We need a lot of noise made here. And I'm going to use this, the perfect example is I don't know if you remember the building that came down in Philadelphia back in June, and it crashed into another building with the crane operator.
Yes.
And the guy was, his blood was filled with painkillers and marijuana. All right.
Yes.
Again, that's an awareness issue.
I saw that on your website, by the way.
You
was
bet.
On your website.
You bet. And I know I've taken away a little bit from the kid thing on that, but again, this is so prevalent out there with adults and kids. But we have to have the noise made.
Okay, so here's what's happening. Let me just put this in perspective from what you told me and what's happening in our neighborhoods here today in Clovis and in Fresno, is that the adults, the parents, will somehow need these pills, pain pills, for whatever reason, whether they had a surgery or they got an ache and a pain. So sometimes there's leftover medicine in the cabinet.
Right.
Their kids get a hold of this medicine, right? And now they become addicted. Right. The question is, how do you know if your kids are taking drugs? How do you find out? And when you do find out, What do you do about it?
Okay, first and foremost, again, I believe as a parent, you need to drug test your kids. And I don't
How
care.
do you do that?
Again, we can send you to a place where you can buy a full panel, 10-panel drug test for $10 instead of $40 at Walgreens.
All right, let me ask you a question. Can you just ask, and I want to be very blunt about this, can you just ask your son or your daughter to just pee in a cup and you can send that out?
You don't even have to send it out. You can read it right there. And we'll teach you how to read the drug test.
At home?
At home. But you have to watch them go in the cup. It's that simple. These kids are so bright today. They know how to fool a drug test. And again, in my opinion, you know, these kids don't have any rights living in your home.
You're telling me a 7th and an 8th grader
Yes.
would be able to fool me
Yes.
on a test that he's going to pee in a cup
Sure.
and he fakes it?
Absolutely. He can use a lot of these kids will use somebody else's urine and keep it in a condom in their pocket in case they get drug tested.
You're on Connect with Me. Your question.
Yes, my
Caller.
question is, why don't you go after the parents? You know, most of these parents in this whole town are doctors.
Okay. Your question? What's your question? Are you there, caller?
Yes, I am.
Okay, quickly. We're almost out of time here. What's your question?
My question is go after the people, the family. The family are doctors.
I guess
I'm sorry.
Okay, okay, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. I guess I'm getting from that caller is maybe we need to go after the doctors that are prescribing too many medications.
You know what? Yes, everybody talks about that, but the fact of the matter is it's almost impossible to do. The medical association, the medical board, they just don't allow it. It literally takes an act of Congress to go after a physician somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Flindt Andersen is here. He is the executive director of the Pain Prescription Abusers in Need. Hey, I want to put that phone number. Call for help on the screen before we go to break. We'll put the phone number up, and then out of this, we'll just go to break. There are the two numbers up there, 978-9239 and 579-1551. We're going to go to break. Back in just a moment.
1 Adam 12, 1 Adam 12.
This is Adam 12. It stars Martin Milner as Officer Pete Malloy, Kent McCord as Officer Jim Reed.
1 Adam 12, roger.
This black and white patrol car has an overhead valve V8 engine. It develops 325 horsepower at 4,800 RPMs. It accelerates from 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. It has a top speed of 120 miles an hour. The automobile has 2 shotgun racks, one attached to the bottom portion of the front seat, one in the vehicle trunk.
You want me to drive?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Another call coming in here on Connect with Me. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hello, caller.
Good morning. I think this is a very important topic. I just want to speak about another side of this. There are young people in the city and community that have gunshot wounds, bullets that cannot be removed, and these kids, either by not having insurance or having proper medical care, they're not able to get pain medication. They're not able to get medical assistance or medical treatment. Another side are women that have been abused, domestic violence, that can't go to a doctor because they're afraid of having their children removed by mandated reporters. So I just think it's a very sad situation, but that there's another side of this, people that aren't able to get medical treatment, that have validated medical conditions, permanent medical conditions, and are unable to get proper health care. Thank you very, very much for this call and the opportunity to let me call.
All right, thank you.
Look, the one thing I do want to say here is that we are not against the medications. These medications have their purpose in our society today.
For example, I take blood pressure medication. Okay,
Right.
fine. I need it,
Right.
according to my doctor.
Right.
But I don't want my kids putting their hands on it.
Right.
Nor do I want them abusing it.
Right. So as a parent, again, it's not that they're going to actually abuse the blood pressure medicine, but what they do, there's a thing out there called farm parties, and it's spelled PHARM. And what these kids will do is they will steal medications from their parents' medicine cabinets, no matter what it is. They will put those in bowls at party, mix them all together, and then take handfuls of them to see what happens.
What do you mean, take handfuls
of the pills
swallow
and
them?
swallow them, and to see what happens. They're called farm parties.
But also you told me they're inhaling some of the powders inside these medications.
They are, because...
And they're injecting them like heroin?
Right, because...
For what purpose?
After you take a pill for so long, you don't get the same physical effect. You don't get that same high. So it needs to get to the bloodstream faster. So then they'll start by inhaling it, and then once the inhaling doesn't do the job, then they'll start injecting it. And by the way, 90% of these kids that are truly, truly hooked on OxyContin and those medications will eventually go to heroin.
I want to ask you a legal question. I know you're not an attorney. Can you force your child to have a drug test under the age of 18? Is it against the Constitution? I don't know that.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I'm one of those guys, John, that I don't care. I mean,
pee in that cup.
Pee in the cup, or this is going to happen to you. Right.
Good morning. You're on Connect with Me, and your question quickly.
Yeah, my question is, I was wondering, what about the parents that are doctors who have prescription pads in their house that only sign the kids would sit down and listen on it and get it that way?
Yeah, we had that question before. What about the parents who are doctors that have access to all this medication?
Well, again, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, until somebody allows us to go after some of these physicians that are overprescribing, our hands are tied.
How do you do it?
How do you do it? We don't know. We don't know.
Now you know more about drug, way more than I do. You were telling me something yesterday, huffing. I never heard about that. What is that? Explain what that is.
Huffing is the number one manner in which 11 and 12-year-olds get high. They literally take the cleansers from beneath your kitchen sink.
Ajax.
Yeah, Windex cans, that are spray cans, computer duster, and they inhale those. And those can actually kill a child the first time they do it.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, I am a chronic pain patient who takes 2 different opioids.
Okay.
And some things that you can do to protect yourself. What I do is my medication, I take it out, I put it in a bottle with a label that does not say what it actually is. When you're at the pharmacy, have all of the paperwork shredded. If you need to go over it with the pharmacist first, fine, but don't take that paperwork home. One time at my pharmacy, someone called saying it was me. And asking for my pain medication, but they know my voice very well, and asked the birthday, and then that person hung up. But any medication you have got to keep it put in a safe place, away from children and pets.
Okay, we're almost out of time here. Thanks for the call. So I want to get to the question before we run out of time. We've got like 2 minutes left. Okay, medications, your advice to parents is lock them up, right?
Lock them up.
That's number one.
Right.
Okay, if you have leftovers or even bottles, how can you discard those? You can't throw them in the garbage. You can't throw extra pills in the toilet because it's a hazardous materials problem. So what do you do with those extra pills?
Okay, well, there's 2 sides to that. First of all, there are mailboxes. It's called the Lock It Up Project, and there are mailboxes at Fresno State, at Clovis PD, downtown in the Fresno Sheriff's Department.
Put them in that
you
mailbox?
put them in the mailbox, and the sheriffs will dispose of those.
Not a regular mailbox. Let's not.
It is a regular mailbox because those things again are like breaking into Fort Knox.
But it's not going down to the corner and putting them in your mailbox.
No,
no.
Oh,
these mailboxes are specially designed.
Specially designed in front of the police departments at Fresno State, Clovis, and downtown jail.
Okay.
And you can put your medications in there. The sheriffs will pick those up.
What about your place? Can they take it out?
They can bring them to our place.
Address?
83 East Shaw, Suite 202, Fresno 93710.
So it's the safe way of discarding some of these.
Yes.
Put the hotline number up on the screen again. The helpline. Your website is what?
www.gotpainusa.com.
Okay. 30 seconds left. Final advice for parents and even for teens that might be watching this program right now.
As parents, be that detective. Get in your kids' business. Know what they're doing. Know where they're going. If you have to drug test them, drug test them.
And you do that too.
You bet. And if they come up positive, it's time to start the process and getting them the help they need, and you can contact us, and we're more than willing to give you a hand with this.
Flindt, sadly we're out of time. Scary stuff, my friend.
Scary stuff.
Scary stuff.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it
Hey,
very
come
much.
back, okay?
You bet. I'd love to.
I appreciate it. All right, Flindt Andersen, he is from the director of the Pain Prescription Abusers in Need. He is the executive director. That's going to do it for us today. We're back with another edition of Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno tomorrow. Take care of yourself.